What's good, gang? We're back with season 2 of BBL. So last season we did just a normal Nat Dex. This time we're changing shit up. We got Ubers, all right? And it's interesting. We have a lot of expensive teams, a lot of top-heavy teams, but I'm doing the rankings of the Bombastic Division for the first half of this video. Let's just get right into it. We got Fimi and his Chicago Crocodiles first, and he round 1, pick 1 to Zacian. Not a bad round 1, pick 1. The main problem that I have with this is then you went into no more Ubers. And you can tell, I mean, like, there isn't necessarily a bad Pokemon on this team. I mean, Glaceon's like, whatever. But other than Glaceon, like, Terra Pangoro, like, Jellicent, Roserade, Terragudra, these are all, like, mid-mons, even Bronzong. But, like, none of them stand out. And I feel like that's a problem when you're only going to have one Uber. I mean, you know, the typing is good, you know, having at least 2 resistances to every type. That's what I try to achieve in every draft, and it seems like you've done that pretty well here. But yeah, the main 2 complaints that I have, not many Ubers, literally just one Uber in Zacian. I know Landorus is strong, and I know it's an Uber on ladder, and so is Trapagos, but you know what I mean. But yeah, you do have some good hazards, right? Obviously, Roserade's got great hazards, but your defog users are not that great. I don't have Rapid Spin on this board down here in the bottom right, but I'm pretty sure I know everybody that gets Rapid Spin. So I know you do have Trapagos, and that helps, but it seems a little bit iffy. Just, yeah, main thing, I mean, your hazard removal's all right. You're going to bring Trapagos to every game. You're just not really defog Landorus at all, like, ever. So I feel like if they've got a bulky Ghost, you're kind of, like, in a really bad spot in that way. But yeah, you do have some good hidden power users. Mega Manectric loves hidden power. Roserade, obviously, with the Technician, uses it very well as well. Even Landorus, I think, to an extent, might find a niche there. But just not that much pivot, the main thing. You have Landorus and Cinderace who have U-turn. I'm not sure if anything has anything else. I mean, like, Glaceon has Baton Pass. Are you using that? I don't know. Are you even using Glaceon, yet alone using Baton Pass? Probably not. So you've got Volt Switch, Mega Manectric, and that's it. So a little bit pivot weak. Your hazard removal's not great, and only one Uber. It can be fixed. It's not a huge problem. I know there are a lot of Ubers still left on the board. I would probably try to grab one of them and rework your team. With that being said, it's like usable. Like the threats are still there, and being able to have a well-rounded team that's hard to prep for, it's not horrible. Your speed tiers are also pretty damn good. So I'm gonna throw you in C. It's not like unusable team, but it definitely has a lot of work to be perfect. And then next up we have Aimless Outcast and his Sweet Tea Sinistes. Eternatus, this is the Eternatus round 1. Another one where there's only one Uber. This one feels a tiny bit more justified because they have Tapu Koko Valiant, which is like impossible to get in a regular draft. So this one's a little bit more interesting in that way. But the types just feel really weird. Like you have no Dark, you have no Ghost, you have no Fire, no Grass. I mean, these all feel like they're close to essential. Fire and Grass are like, you can definitely go without. And I mean, you have Silvally, so in a way you do have all of those types, but it's in a way you also don't, because you can't bring a Ghost and a Dark in the same game. You can't bring a Dark and a Fire in the same game, you know? And I've been told plenty of times you can go without a Fire and you can go without a Grass, so that's probably fine. But it's Ghost and Dark are the main things that I'm just kind of, I feel like you're definitely missing here. And then you double up on a lot of types. Like, I'm not really sure where Machamp fits into this team, aside from just, like, I guess, like, having priority. Like, you have Iron Valiant. Like, I feel like those points can go somewhere else. Bruxish, you know, it is your Psychic type, but you could probably drop both of Machamp and Bruxish and find, and even Silvally, and kind of rework that core to find some of the types and support that you need. You have great defog users. Your pivot's fine, I think. I know Coco has Volt Switch, Melodic, oh, and U-turn. Melodic has Flip Turn. Silvally has Parting Shot. Mega Pidgeot has U-turn. So the pivot's definitely there. That's good. Your hazards could definitely be better. One Stealth Rock user is not great. No Spikes users. It's just a little bit hard to get shit done. I mean, maybe it's, you know, that's why you have no Ghost type. I guess you have no intent on spin blocking or blocking anything, but it's like, it's just really tough. You know, obviously there are, you know, a lot of Mons here that would love to have those hazards be up. I mean, every Mon loves hazards being up, right? But like, Mega Pidgeot and Iron Valiant and Tapu Koko, even to an extent, feel like the ones that kind of love it the most. These mons that could chip down things and, like, actually forces some 2-hit KOs with rocks or spikes up or something. The other main issue I notice is Mega Pidgeot being your only ground resist. Again, kind of forces you to run something like, especially when you have Koko and Eternatus, it feels like you either have to run Mega Pidgeot every game, Or it's still your only ground resist and it's not bulky. And then Sylvally, what you have to run Sylvally Flying or Sylvally Grass, Sylvally Bug, which are Sylvally types that you're realistically almost never running ever. I mean, Flying you could probably get by with, but like it's like, are you gonna force Sylvally Flying into every single game? Probably not. It just feels like it's a lot worse in that way. And then Melmetal again being your only fairy resist, so it's like, what then are you running Sylvally Poison or something and worsening your ground resist, you know, because if you go a fairy resist, it has to be weak to ground. Because Steel, Poison, and Fire are the only three. They're all weak to ground. So, like, then you're just going to have to worsen your ground weakness. It's so Valley, like, I like the logic, and obviously, like, forcing prep, it's really hard. Because, like, people might think, oh, he only has one fairy resist, until you don't. Or only has one ground resist, until you don't, right? Because of Sylvally. And so it's like, that prep is very nice, but, like, overall, it's not gonna work in practice because of the fact that you can only have one type. Again, not horrible, there's a core here, but I think personally I would drop Machamp, Bruxish, and Sylvally and try to fix the core from there, try to find a solid grass type, a solid dark type, somewhere in there, I don't know. It's easier said than done. I'm sitting here trying to act like it's so easy for me to be able to fix this team. It's not. I have no idea. But it's not horrible. Like, prepping against this team is not a free win, essentially. But it's mainly like you gotta make reads if your only ground immunity is gonna be as frail as Mega Pidgeot. So you're gonna have to figure something out. I don't like this team too much. I'm trying not to be harsh. I'm trying not to be a dick, but like I also don't just want to start handing out high rankings. I'll say this is also a C tier. I think D tier teams are just gonna be preserved for like people who like made meme teams or like, you know, their teams are like genuinely unusable. Like these teams are usable. Like I'm not gonna sit here and act like these guys are guaranteed to like have bad records or anything, because obviously it comes down to how well you play. But still, a lot of flaws on the team. And now we finally get to our first team with multiple Ubers. We have Slaminander and the Ice Cube Mafia. The Xerneas Zygarde core looking really, really good here. Iron Bundle is nice to have that speed. This team is looking a lot better. The main thing I notice, just based off the prep doc screenshot, are the resists are honestly not looking that great, right? Zygarde being the only fire resist is good. I mean, you know, Zygarde's bulky, don't get me wrong. But, like, anything that has ice coverage, you know, any Firemon that can just throw HP ice on, you're looking a little bit rough. Ice resists are, like, kind of fine, but, like, is Bundle and ice resists? I don't know. It's got 56 HP, 60 SPDEF. Like, how much is it tanking ice beams? I mean, it quad resists, but it's also like, are you running boots? Because if not, then you're taking 25 to rocks on a switch in to tank and ice, and that leaves you with just Cobalion. Flying resist, just Zapdos, right? Ground resist, just Zapdos. Ghost resist, literally nothing. So this type chart is really bad. And I mean, you can play aggressive to try to thwart it, but when you have a core, you know, when you have Vileplume, Ferrothorn, Zapdos, how often are you playing like super offensive? Even Zygarde to an extent is, I feel like it's defensive more than it's offensive, but maybe in draft it's different because you want to be able to try to sweep with your Ubers. So maybe it's different, but I don't know. But like, yes, the threats are absolutely there. Xerneas is a threat. Iron Bundle's a threat. Zygarde's a threat. Zapdos is even a threat sometimes. Mega Gallade is a threat. Like, your threats are there. Like, this team has this team has aura. I wasn't gonna say that, but it's strong. It strikes fear, essentially. I think I'd like to see a bit more pivot. I could be wrong, but I think the only pivot that you have is the Volt Switch on Zapdos and the U-turn and flip turn on Iron Bundle. Just, oh, Cobalion gets Volt Switch, right? Cobalion. And I don't know what gets, like, yeah, I see Ariados gets Baton Pass. I'm not counting that. But I mean, yeah, you have reasonable hazards. Ariados kind of does what it needs to as a one-pointer. The Terra Captains are decently nice as well. I will say for a team with no spinner, Zapdos Defog, like you only have Zapdos Defog, you're not running Xerneas Defog. So like that can get a little rough. You don't have a real Will-O-Wisp user, which usually I do like to see. Especially in Ubers, I feel like that's a great way to cripple some physical Ubers. And I don't know how often you're running Will-O-Wisp Glade. Although it does have the speed to do it, maybe. I don't know. It's some heat I could see you bringing. This team does have a lot of weaknesses, though. And the main thing is no Ghost Resist. Like, that's rough. And I mean, you have Terra Dark Ariados and Terra Dark Meowstic, but those are literally it. Like, Cobalion and Vileplume, your main two Terra Captains, don't have any Terra types to resist Ghost. So, I mean, Ghost is the most spammable it has ever looked, ever, against this team. Like, it is rough. And there are a couple of other bad ones too, like the ice one, because like I said again, like Cobalion could Terra, and if it Terra's like flying, which is one of his 3 Terra types, steals the other one. Like okay, but like, are you Terra stealing? I don't know. Like, but if you Terra flying, like that's another ice weakness. And yeah, you have Ghost. That's still smart. Like it leaves Iron Bundle. If you're gonna Terra Cobalion, it leaves Iron Bundle is your only ice resist. I don't know. I just see this team does have a lot of exploitations, but I think because it can be offensive, it can like strike that fear, like I said, and have a lot of fast attacking threats that you really have to worry about. I think it is better than the other two. I'll throw it in B, right? Because it has the upsides, but it also has the downsides. Like they're you know, they're both noticeable pretty easily. Next we have Asylum and the Chapel Hill Palafins. They have the Mega Kyogre with the Reshiram, and again, we're back. I mean, we're not back. We do have 2 Uber. I was gonna say we're back to 1 Uber, but we kind of are. Reshiram is like all right. I mean, I'd like to see it. Like physical Reshiram is not a joke either. Like it's definitely not bad. But the main thing is like your first 3 attackers are all special. You even drafted some later in Galvantula, Comfey, and Zoroark. Like your physical options don't seem very strong. You have Iron Boulder as your only strong physical attacker, which is going to force you to bring it every single game. And again, the type chart here is just really rough. I feel like you're going to force yourself to go Spadef Aggron every game as well because of the fact that it's your only fairy resist. So if any fairy user just, you know, is special and just brings some type of coverage move, I don't think it's that common for fairies to be able to hit steals, to be honest, because I don't really think an Aggron has to be worried about a hidden power all that often, to be honest, with filter. But like, I don't know. It's there and it's scary. Your only ground resist being Shaman makes it really rough. Any special mon can run HP Ice, or any ground mon with ice coverage. You know, like a Mamoswine. Oh my god, Mamoswine cooks this team. Absolutely cooks this team. Literally, how do you beat Mamoswine on this team? You would have to catch it off guard somehow. Like, I don't know, like Yachi Shaman, I guess. And like try to dodge the Ice Shard and tank and then kill with a Seed Flare. I don't know. You're gonna have to figure it out. But a Mamoswine user who knows what they're doing, oh, cooks this team. Cooks this team so hard. No ground type is really, really interesting. You do not have a Volt switch in, which is very, very, very rough. I would argue, and I think a lot of other people would argue, that ground is the most important type to have in a draft. I think some people could argue fairy, but I would very, very much argue it's ground. And less ground and more of an electric immunity. Like there are teams that I've seen that don't have a ground, but they have Thunderous Therian or Zoroark, right? Something that can at least come in on a Volt Switch if you're expecting it to try to slow down their momentum. And this team doesn't have that. The hazards are rough. The defoggers are rough. You're losing the hazard game. Your pivot's all right. The type chart's not great. I hate to be rude, but yes, there are a lot more bad things that I can notice about this team than good things. This team doesn't strike fear into me that much. I personally disrespect Reshiram, but maybe it's fine. Kyogre's scary, right? Don't get me wrong, that thing is terrifying. But like, it also does have 90 speed with no like way to boost it with an item. I don't even think there's a way to boost it at all, aside from like Tailwind. Like I think that's it. And I'm gonna be honest, Tailwind is like a joke. Like I said that as like the only thing that I could actually think of, but like no one brings Tailwind. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like you are kind of losing that battle a little bit because it's slow, it gets chunked down, and then after Primal Kyogre, it's like, I don't know. I see so much AV spam coming in this direction. I don't know. It's just all right. Terra Captains are good, at least. You do have the spinner. That's true. I did forget about the spinner. So, I mean, the hazard removal, I guess, could be there, but it definitely is rough. Again, this team isn't a team of someone that's like trying to throw or trying to do something special. And I think as long as you were able to build a reasonable team that doesn't look absolutely horrible, it takes you out of D. But yeah, there's a lot of problems with this team. The main ones that I would see is you're losing the Hazard War pretty bad in every battle, and the ground. Your only ground resist being Shaman Sky, that's a problem. And then your top 3 being special, although Reshiram does have a physical niche, so maybe you could work with that, I don't know. But I'll throw this in D. I wouldn't say the tiers are like, the order of the tiers are necessarily like, take them with a grain of salt. Because I'm like kind of placing them based on where I think they are, but like the focus on the tiers more than the order of the tiers, because I could definitely like just kind of throw something in without thinking. So next we have Gumby and the Newcastle Mets. This team's Ubers are underwhelming, and I think I even heard him say before that he shouldn't have grabbed he realized he shouldn't have grabbed a Mega Metagross in round 1, and I do agree. I think if you want something, you know what I mean? Like, you might, like, it's really rough. Because if you want to use Mega Metagross, it's not like Uber drafts are everywhere. You know what I mean? And so it's like, if you want to use Mega Metagross, it feels like you might have to grab it there. Because I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't fall. So I kind of get that. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you made a bad decision. But, I mean, I'm also not going to, like, tell you it was necessarily the right one when it comes to looking at winning so solely. So your hazards game, honestly it feels a lot worse than it looks on this board here. It says you have 3 Stealth Rock root users. It's kind of rough because like Rampardos is like whatever, and Metagross you're not really using Stealth Rock, so it really just feels like you have Sandy Shock's rocks. Spikes is Sandy Shock. I mean Sandy Shocks. I could see Frostless coming to some games, so sure. But then yeah, Defoggers. Correct me if I'm wrong here. You don't have a spinner. No, Hitmonlee is a spinner, right? Yes, I'm pretty sure. Because does Tyrogue get spin? I think it does. I'm going to go ahead and say Hitmonlee's a spinner. So at least you have that, but you have 1 Defogger and 1 spinner. Here's what I will say. You have a lot of good mons, like you have Chi-Yu and Palkia and Metagross. And Palkia is fine, but like you have these mons that want to come in and do damage, but you don't really have the slow pivot to make it as easy as it could be. You really only have like Wish, Baton Pass, Sylveon, or even just Baton Pass in general, in order to try to get them in. Because, like, I guess you have, like, Spit Ops, too, but, like, Spit Ops isn't coming to every game. Your pivot mons are, like, Tornadus U-Turn and Sandy Shock's Volt Switch that are fast, right? And you want to be able to get these guys in healthy. And it feels like you're making it really hard to do that when you don't have the slow pivot necessary. I would also really like to see a Poison type here, with your only Fairy Resist being Mega... Jesus Christ. When your only Fairy Resist is Mega Metagross. It's a hard name to say, alright? It's not my fault. And especially since one of your Ubers are weak to Fairy. Like, Fairy becomes very spammable against this team. And then your only Ghost resistant being Chi-Yu. I'm not really sure what your Terra types are. I think Frostless is normal. And Hitmonlee has Dark. So I guess your Ghost resist could be there. That's the other thing I will say is you have so many mons that are like 12 points and over. Like Metagross, Palkia, Tornadus, Chi-Yu, Tangrowth, Sylveon, and Sandy Shocks are all 12 points and over. And that's 7 mons there. Like, I don't know how often you're fitting a Terra slot in this team. Like, how often are you bringing a Terra Captain, you know, when you have all these good mons? So it feels like you're kind of forfeiting Terra here. You don't exactly have the pivot to be able to bring in your top tier mons. The hazard removal is iffy. Those are the problems that I would say. And then Fairy Ghost switch-ins feel really rough. But yeah, the team's all right. I think I'll go ahead and throw it in C as well. I'll throw it here. I just would like to see a better Uber and then the other problems that I mentioned before as well. Just make it a little bit rough to put this any higher. Next, we have Block and his New England Naganadels. This team doesn't look too bad. I kind of like this team. You obviously have the great threats, right? When looking at this team at face value, Palkia Origin and Calyrex Ice look like a great combo. I don't hate that at all. And then you were able to kind of combine it with one last threat, right? Something that would be a first-round pick in a normal draft. You got Urshifu single, and then Skeleturge, a mon that's notoriously amazing in Ubers. So it gives you that option there. I will say I don't really see Glamora's place on this team, right? Because you have no spinner, and you have Togekiss Defog only. So I guess, I don't know, is your logic like, well, I can't defog hazards, so I might as well force them up on my opponent's side as well, because I have such a great spin blocker? Like, I guess it could work, but I don't know. It just feels a little bit out of place. I know Palmot is good. Palmot's out of place here, but I get the logic of, like, you just want a fast revival blessing to use Calyrex again. Like, with Calyrex, it's really good because otherwise you're not really tanking much, right? Like, Calyrex has the bulk, but it's dying after hits. Like, it's slow. So it's taking hits after hit after hit. It'll eventually get chipped down. So being able to, like, effectively have 1.5 Calyrex Ices is really, really strong. And I get that. I feel like your hazard removal should be better when you have Calyrex Ice, because you're kind of locked into boots every week with this team. So, I mean, maybe something better I would ideally like to see, because you're forced to bring Togekiss and bring Defog every game, or boots Calyrex every game, if not both. And then the other thing, and this is apparent from the type chart, the Ghost Resist, right? Urshifu being your only Ghost Resist is a little bit rough. You have Terra Dark Gastrodon, so, I mean, that works, I guess, but I don't know how often you're bringing it, and I wouldn't like to bring it every week just because you're going up against a strong Ghost threat, because then you're going to notice you need to bring it a lot. But yeah, the team's all right. I'd like to see some better item removers other than just knockoff. I don't know if Glamora gets corrosive gas, but you're not running it. But that out of the way, I really like these first 4 mons. I've noticed I've been doing a lot of grilling and not a lot of complimenting to all these teams. I like these first 4 mons. I think Calyrex, Ice, Palkia, Origin, Urshifu Single, and Skeledirge are a really good first 4. I even think Togekiss fits it nicely. I think you're kind of like forcing the Pod mod, although I think it can definitely work. I just don't know if I'd go Urshifu Single, right, and double up on that fighting, but I guess it's fine. I think Glamora is honestly the biggest problem. I think I would have liked to see a bulky poison in that Glamora slot instead of a hazard stacker, but I guess I see the logic if your hazards are going to be bad. Like maybe a Crobat is better there, right? It gets you a faster Mon so that Palkia Origin isn't your fastest, and then it actually gets you a bulkier Mon that can remove hazards. But I get that Glamora kind of fits in that speed tier exactly where you need it, so I don't know. I will say I think might be the first team where, like, if you change nothing, I wouldn't clown you for it. I guess I wouldn't clown anybody for anything. I'm not going to be an asshole about it, but I wouldn't absolutely hate seeing nothing change on this team. So I think it is the best team I've seen so far. I'm still going to put it in the same tier with Slaminander. So, you know, he can go B, but definitely not bad. Then we've got Saigai and Saigai with Saigai Circus. At least I think. He actually never gave me his team name, so I just took it from a different doc. And here we have the first team with 3 Ubers. We got Mega Mewtwo X, Kyurem White, and Genesect, which is honestly kind of a nice 3. I kind of like that. I think the speed with Genesect and Kyurem White, they're kind of close, but I mean, I'm being nitpicky, to be honest. That's fine, right? I would say your hazard game isn't that great, but I think your team benefits from Misty Terrain more than it hurts it. I don't really see how many Mons are, like, commonly bringing Toxic on this team, or Will-O-Wisp, or Thunderwave. Like, I think Colossal Will-O-Wisp, or potentially just Colossal Flame Body, right? I guess there's a little bit of anti-synergy there with Misty Surge and Flame Body, but you could easily run Flash Fire or even Steam Engine with Terra. It's not like you need to bring Flame Body, or, like, it's not like it needs to be there every time. I'm honestly a Farigiraf lover, pause, but that Mon is great. It's a great Terra Captain. I'm not sure if I fully agree with the Terra Captains. I mean, like the Terra types, because obviously he has his Stab, which is Psychic, and then he has Fighting and Fairy, and I kind of agree with those. I would really like to see a Water, right, because of the one weakness being Electric, but I see where you're going with Fighting. It's not a throw by any means. Your type chart is great. This is the first type chart that, like, I honestly wouldn't change much. The only thing I would say, I guess, is, like, your special flying switch-in doesn't really exist, but hey, maybe some games that's Ditto, right? Who knows? I don't know if, like, maybe you're going up against, like, a Thunderous, right? I feel like Ditto's your special switch in there. I have no idea. Maybe a Celesteela or something. But, like, it's fine. I'd like to see maybe a little bit better hazard removal, because I wouldn't love running Kyurem White boots every single game if I were me. I mean, if this were me. But your hazard removal could be worse. Again, it's not a throw. Like, Defog Finny is real. Defog Honchkrow is, like, I guess possible in the niche that you bring it. And then you have the spin on Colossal. You might even have hazard removal. You have spin on Treads. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about spin on Treads. Like, your hazard removal's there. I take it back. Honestly, I forgot you had spin on Treads. It's honestly fine. But yeah, I think these hazards go really, really well. I don't think there's much of a hole in the type chart, like I said, for the first time. I guess, again, if I'm being nitpicky, I feel like, how often are you bringing a Terra? But it's still not that bad. Like, Farigiraf is your 7th most expensive Mon, so assuming that Ditto isn't, you don't find a place for Ditto, or you don't find a place for Treads, or, something like that, then Farigiraf easily comes. So it's like, honestly, I'd like this. I do think this is the best team so far. Like, I see that there are, like, weaknesses, right? Where, like, okay, your hazards aren't that great, or, like, you don't have Heal Bell, but I can see how you get around them being like, well, Treads is probably coming to every game. It might not be that hard to get up. Heal Bell you don't really need with Misty Surge. Like, there are problems, but your team circumvents them pretty well, and I like that. Again, like the other thing, no poison, right? Oh, I can spam T-Spikes, but there's Misty Surge. So, like, how well am I spamming T-Spikes, really? Like, realistically. So, yeah, good team, I would say. I think this is the first time I would go to A. I think that's a solid A-tier team. I think you did good with this one. And I like these Ubers. I'm interested to see these guys work. I'm interested to see Mega Mewtwo X work. I haven't seen much of Mewtwo X, and so I would like to see it cook. Speaking of Mewtwo, our next team here took Mewtwo Y. I was going to say right after X, but Saigai actually was his was a makeup pick, so Y was taken, thankfully. Thankfully, no one took X when Y was still available. But this team is really, really, really interesting. The threats are obviously there, right? We have another triple Uber team, right? And these are some scary mons, like Mewtwo Y, obviously base 140, Zamazenta base 138, and these mons have great special attack and great attacking stat. Zamazenta's hard to kill. Zekrom's got, can data dance up at any minute and just win the game realistically, barring Bolt Strike misses, which, let's be real, that's happening at least once this season. And then you have nice defensive core with Celesteela and Primarina. Primarina is a great defensive mon to be able to flip turn and get your guys in. Klefki is a great screens user on a team that loves screens. Mewtwo Y being able to nasty plot, Zekrom D-Dance, Zamazenta can Iron Defense up on with a light screen or something. Even Celesteela, like autonomize weakness policy behind a screen, you're taking like no damage, right? Linoon Belly Drum as another niche. This team loves screens and you have a great screens user. But that brings me into my first problem is that you have no brick break immunity. That's kind of where like it could really come into play. Like, it could come in handy. But your only brick break immunity is like Ghost Linoon, because you would love to be able to dodge that. I will say your only ground resistances are Celesteela and then a mon that might Terra out of that ground resistance. But like when it's Celesteela, like I don't know, I feel like that's not as bad of a problem as it could be because it's still Celesteela. The biggest issue I would say is you can't stop the Volt switches. So momentum does kind of ride hard on this team. And the utility isn't fully there. Like, you have the spikes and the T-spikes users from Klefki and Quillfish, but your Stealth Rock users are minimal at best, and Zekrom's not running rocks, so it's like Celebi, and even that Celebi doesn't run rocks all that much. Just your general utility, other than screens, doesn't feel too good. Like, Klefki and Quillfish feel like the only two running much utility at all. I could see, like, a Roar Zamazenta, or, Toxic Primarina. Is that even a thing? I don't know. You could find some things here, and like Heal Bell Celebi is like not bad, but like I don't know, the utility I'm just not sure feels there. And then obviously the no Volt Switch blocker is the big thing. Still not a bad team, and even though it does have its flaws, there are not many teams that I would want to play over this one. You get what I'm trying to say? Like this is one of the teams I'd want to play the least because I feel it's very hard. So with that being said, I do think it's A as well. I don't think it's as good as size. I'll put it like bottom of A, top of B type area. I'll settle for A. I think it's a good A team. And we're getting used to 3 Ubers teams now, because now we have Parcelsus, Parcel, Para. I think he goes by Para, and the team called This Is My Cat. Fire team name, I guess. It doesn't even have a logo. You'd think the logo would be like a picture of a cat, but no logo. But we have Yveltal, Solgaleo, and Naganadel, which are those are great. Those are great mons, about as great as you could get. Again, if we're being nitpicky, 97 speed Solgaleo and 99 speed Yveltal is like, those are really, really close. But that's really it. And again, like I said, I'm being picky. And then not only that, you were still able to get a top tier round 1 pick in a normal draft, Mega Diancie, and the best Terra Captain in the game. I would probably argue that's Sinistcha, given our rules of Terra Captains. One of the main things I'll notice is if you are going to use that Terra Steel Sinistcha, you're going to have a hard time switching into fighting moves. And so I feel like if you're going up against a strong fighting threat, which I think is going to be a lot, you're kind of shunned away from running that, which I feel like makes you kind of gravitate towards Terra Fairy more often than not. But that's not even that much of a bad thing. Like, Sinistcha being Fairy every single game is not bad. Like, if Sinistcha was just a Fairy type and couldn't Terra, this team still looks really good. You know what I mean? And that's effectively what we have here, even if. And it's still better than that, because you still can do Steel if you want to, right? Because you resist fighting before the Terra as well. I do have my complaints. I don't think this team is perfect. I like a fighting threat. I think fighting is, a very good type to kind of fill out your Psychic Dark Fighting core, and you just never ended up getting one. Nor do I think you have... Oh, you have Terra... No, you don't have a single Terra fighting either. It's like, all right. I don't really love Dugtrio. I get that it has its fun little arena trap niche. It is your only spin blocker, but it's a damn good spin blocker. I'm not saying Volt Switch blocker. Apologies. It's your only Volt Switch blocker, but like, damn, is it a good one, right? If I'm in on something like Mega Manectric, and I don't know if Mega Manectric can OHKO with an HP, or just with an overheat. Maybe that's a bad example, but you get what I mean. Like an electric mon that's slower than Dugtrio is a big one, where it's like, you're almost afraid of having to click Volt Switch because then you might just get trapped in and die. So it's a great Volt Switch blocker to have. Your pivot is decent. Your top 4, all having good pivot is great. Obviously, it falls down. I don't think you have a single pivot after that. Baton Pass, Diancie is it. but it's enough to get the job done. You have decent hazard removal, decent hazard setters. I can't find much to complain about for this team, to be honest. I think another thing could be like your team is pretty ground weak again if Sinister goes steel, but like you still have 2 good defensive immunities. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If I had to nitpick, I would say that Terra Steel Sinistra feels very hard to bring because your team becomes very ground weak and very fighting weak. I guess that's it. But it's still, like, the team is still pretty damn good other than that. I think your fastest being Naganadel is also not great. Again, I guess if I had to nitpick. Diancie feels like the only dark resist because Yveltal boosts the dark moves of its opponents when it comes in. So, like, maybe there's that as well. But, like, these aren't huge problems. I don't know. These problems don't feel that bad. I don't know. Again, I feel like I'm nitpicking. Oh, you know what? Actually, Solgaleo being the only fairy resist because Crocolore, like, I don't know how real that is in Ubers. And it could Terra out. It could Terra Fairy out of the fairy resist. So that's, I guess, what I will say. Like, I'm essentially saying all these little things. I think this is the best team so far. I like this team a lot. I would put this at the top of A. I think it's the best team so far, but it's not perfect. Or close to perfect. S is saved. S can be close to perfect as well. It doesn't have to be damn good, like damn perfect on every aspect of a team, because realistically, I don't know how achievable that is. But I think it's very good. It does have flaws, but I think it's very, very good. Polar up next, another triple Uber team. You might think it's not until you look all the way very down at the end, and they saved Deoxys for the last bit. And I actually like this team. I think this team's pretty damn good at what it needs to do. Tinglu, I mean, Tinglu's a really, really good mon in Ubers. There's so much psychic spam, even a decent amount of ghost spam, and Tinglu eats that up. I like Magearna in draft. It's a fun mon being able to bring just about any moveset you want. It's like the Mew of Ubers, almost. Marshadow feels like one of the best mons in draft, right? Deoxys, also a very good mon. Now that I've complimented the team, let's get into what I don't like, because there is a decent amount. I think there's a lot of types that you're weak to, right? With Magearna being your only dragon resist because you comboed your steel with your fairy, so you only have 1 dragon resist. Tinglu is kind of like your only ghost resist. Kamala's there. Not only is it a Terra Captain, though, but it also probably isn't coming to that many games. You have great hazards, but your hazard removal isn't great. You went double spinner, but these mons highlighted in purple are your only hazard removal. You have Defog, Articuno, and then 2 spinners. And both of these spinners are like low tier niche guys. So if you're gonna hazard spam, are they gonna, I feel like they hazard spam on you, and that's like chip on your Deoxys. It starts to die to priority moves after a bit of chip. Marshadow, that's getting chipped. Ogerpon can't run boots, that's getting chipped. Back to the type chart, your only fighting resist. Deoxys is not real as a fighting resist, so it leaves you with Marshadow as your only fighting resist, and you definitely have the weaknesses there. Your only fire resists, as well as your only water resists, are Mega Ampharos and Alamola, and I don't know how often Mega Ampharos is coming on this team. It might have to come more often than you would like it to, just because of the fact that it's just those and then Aloe. Although Aloe's a great resist for those types. Your only ground resist is Articuno pre-Terra. You do have grass and flying as 2 of your Terra types, so you can get it done. But, like, by that logic, I'm not sure how often Terra Water... Like, when are you ever bringing Terra Water Articuno? You know what I mean? You're going to Terra Water Articuno and have literally no ground switch-ins. I mean, I get that, like, kind of, in a way, Aloe is your physical ground switch-in and Tinglu is your special ground switch-in, but they're not taking 0. But I like the Wish Pass core? Yeah, the Wish Pass core. That's almost a tongue twister. With Aloe, I think it's good. I think your pivot, is there, and it allows for your team to kind of move around it a little. But I do think you are T-Spike weak as well, because you have no grounded poison. I don't exactly know what I would do to fix this team, with limited transactions at least. I mean, maybe drop Mega Ampharos, Kamala, and Avalugg and try to build with those. Try to find one more bulky fire resist and water resist, and try to like find some type of bulky dragon, and then with the other 2, just draft like a 1-pointer and then draft like a poison that it feels usable. I don't really know. I could try to give you more advice if you care enough to hear it. But that's all I'm thinking right now. I don't know if I touched on your only ghost resist being Tinglu, because Kamala's not coming. I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, that's about it. It's not bad. I'd like to see a better Will-O-Wisp user. I'd like to see some better hazard removal. This feels like a B tier team to me. because it does have the threats, and I would be scared of this team if I were playing it. Like those Ubers are scary, and those are a great 3 Ubers to have. I'd put it top of B. I think it's good in the top of B. And next, we're back into 2 Ubers. We got Dimster and the East Bay Blastoise. I think this is obviously a Sun team. It's kind of interesting to see. I think we have a Groudon Sun team in both divisions. I'm not very familiar with Ubers. I guess I should have said that at the beginning of the tier list and preface it with that. But I'm not sure how reasonable it is to bring a Heat Rock Groudon. But I don't know. I think what I will say is this team, you don't really have any Sun users that like need Sun. Like Screamtail, Walking Wake, Roaring Moon, and Fluttermane, they're all usable outside of Sun. Like none of them need a photosynthesis boost or need like anything. It's not like you have like Lilligant or Venusaur or something that just like doesn't do what you want it to do outside of Sun, right? So I don't know how often you like absolutely need Heat Rock necessarily. And I think that that's good. I think it's hard to prep against. We can get into our usual problems with the team coming into the type chart, right? Skarmory being your only flying resist and notoriously not having that much Spadef makes you effectively have no special flying resist, especially if they have coverage. Something like Mega Pidgeot with Heat Wave, right? Mega Pidgeot just spams Hurricanes even through Sun because of no guard, and it just makes it really hard to beat. Although I will say that generally I did pick a very specific example. Being weak to special flying and having Sun, it's a good combo, right? That's a good way to try to circumvent that weakness. But still, even flying physical kind of does rip through this team with your only one being Skarmory. It kind of even if that resist is good, it's still only one mon, and it requires a lot of smart play around them. But the speed for this team is just incredible. I mean, Breloom's slowest, Skarmory's slowest is crazy. Like 70 being your slowest is actually crazy. The rock is red on the type chart, but that doesn't mean anything. You have your 2 of your rock weak are Terra captains, and also definitely never coming at the same time. So realistically, more than often, you're never going to have more rock weak mons brought than rock resist, so it ends up being fine. But yeah, I think the team moves around nicely. I think having an offensive fairy is perfect when you have Roaring Moon and Walking Wake, because obviously those 2 are weak to Dragon. Being able to come in offensively or defensively at any point in time if you have both Screamtail and Fluttermane, it's very, very nice. But if you can come in on a Dragon, hitting a Dragon move with a faster fairy, right, that can scare a lot of people. And you're damn sure going to be faster in Sun with Photosynthesis speed boost. Like, I don't know how often people are going to be faster than a 135 plus 1. You have 2 real knockoff users. You have somewhat real hazard removal. I mean, you have Skarmory, right? But I'm not sure how often anything else is hazard removing. You have great hazard users. I like this team. I think it's good. The main weakness I would say is, Skarmory being your only flying resist is, like, iffy. I guess if I were you, I'm not really sure what I would do. I feel like Beedrill doesn't have a lot of place, or even Breloom doesn't have a lot of places, like, to fit on this team. It sucks. I hate saying that because I really love Beedrill, but, like, it also is still Mega Beedrill. Like, it's rough. But I would say, like, probably take away Breloom and try to find... But, like, I don't know, because Breloom, like, the thing is, like, I would love to have a fighting. Maybe, like, Screamtail for Diancie, I think, might fit this team a little bit better. I don't know if Diancie's available, but I think that's good at being able to have a kind of second flying resist, and then you still keep that fairy, and then maybe get rid of Breloom for some psychic fighting, like, delayed, or... So, I don't know. I also think Breloom is nice at providing priority, because I don't think anything else on your team has just about anything aside from Bibarel. I could be wrong, but looking at it like that, I do see that looks like the only priority you have. I mean, like, fake out Torracat, but I'm talking about real priority. I think it's just Breloom's Mach Punch and then Bibarel, which I don't even know if we're counting that as being real. So I don't know. You would be removing that niche, so I don't even know, to be honest. But again, good, not perfect. I'd go ahead and throw this as the second best team, I think. I still think Paris team is probably the best, but it's not bad. On to the last 5, we got another triple Uber team. We got Destroyer and his Gooey Goomy Gamers. And Pheromosa is honestly one of the mons I'm most excited to see. I'm really interested to see how that mon works. That being said, you kind of follow it up with these 2 mons that don't really have much of a threat. Like, they don't have much of a threatening vibe to them. Like, Lugia, I'm going to be honest, I'm disrespecting the hell out of Lugia. And with Giratina, too. Like, I don't know. Those mons, like, are really rough. And then you get into, like, where does this team go past Pheromosa? You've got defensive Lugia. Giratina can be offensive, but it's best when it's defensive. Cyclozar is utility. Empoleon is defensive. Arcanine, again, can be offensive, but also is defensive. Mega Venusaur is defensive. Florges is defensive. It's like, what happened to your hit power? You drafted Pheromosa, one of the best offensive, like, pure offense mons that exist, and then you just combined it with, like, 8 straight defensive picks. Like, none of these mons have real offensive threat, aside from Pheromosa, and then maybe Giratina. I just don't think I like Lugia combined with Giratina Origin, and then on top of that, you then went into Cyclozar, which I don't even know why that thing went 4th overall if Shedtail's banned. I don't know. The type chart is bad. Empoleon's your only flying resist. Empoleon's your only rock resist. Cyclozar's your only ghost resist. I mean, if you're trying to go for stall, then this team could work, because you have Morning Sun Arcanine, Roost Empoleon, Synthesis Mega Venusaur, Roost Lugia. Does Giratina Origin get Pain Split? I guess I can check. Okay, you have Pain Split Giratina Origin, but I don't know. Like, I guess if you have Wish Florges. Yeah, you have Wish Florges to heal up anything. So I guess if you're trying to go for stall, then sure, but it's also stall. So I'm not sure how often you're going to be winning with stall in draft. I don't know. And you also, I'm not even sure if you have the hazards to really be able to run stall, because you only have 2 Stealth Rocks users. Your hazard removal is great. It feels like you drafted a bunch of mons that are good defensive cores with offensive mons, and then not that many offensive mons. So I don't know. At least you have the pivot. The pivot's there. U-turn Pheromosa, U-turn Cyclozar, flip turn Empoleon, teleport Arcanine, baton pass Florges. Maybe Golduck has flip turn. I don't even care enough to check that. So yeah, I'm friends with this player, and I know that they're good. I think that they can easily beat a lot of other teams out there. With that being said, if I were me, or even if I were him, and I had free range to pick any of the 16 teams in this is one of the last ones I'm considering. Just too many defensive mons in here. Not enough of an offensive threat. I like the Gumi pick, though. Gumi pick is heat. And also, just your ground, not only being low tier, but also might Terra out of ground, means you don't have your Volt switch in, unless you're bringing Piloswine every week, and then also keeping it non-terra'd, or terraing it ground. I don't know. I don't like it. Again, like, I don't think it's a throw team. I'll throw it in D, or C, I mean. I won't throw it in D, but I do think it's the worst team so far. No offense to him. I know he's friends with me, and he might not like that I put that team that low, but hey, use it as motivation. Go ahead and prove me wrong, and I'll admit it. I mean, maybe I won't. I won't admit that I'm wrong. I do still think the team is bad, even if he cooks with it, but it will be more impressive. That's your motivation, Destroyer. It'll be more impressive to me when you win, and to everybody, because this team is like, all right, it'll be more impressive to everybody if you start to win with it. So shout out to you. I believe in you. Next, we got Inquisi's team. Inquisition with the Portland Thorns, another person I'm friends with, another mod in this league. These 3 Ubers, I feel like it almost has the same problem as Destroyer, where, like, this team does have a lot of defense. Manectric's not real. Weezing, Lunala, Mega Audino, Ho-Oh, they all feel defensive. And then you have mons that, like, can have offense, but primarily also are kind of just, like, there to be bulky, and that's great. Tuscan Dialga. Lapras is, like, kind of not real, especially not as with a non-Terra captain. So it's like your offensive threats are like Darkrai and Espeon. Like, I don't know. But, like, it doesn't feel as bad to me because of the fact that these defensive mons like Great Tustialga and Lunala can all also apply damage, like good damage. The type chart is not bad. Obviously, there's no reds. I think Lapras is your only ice resist, though, is the biggest problem. And I get that you don't have any ice weak mons, and I think, yeah, Espeon can Terra Water, so you even have that ice resistance there. But it's still, like, general ice spam can be good. But, I mean, it's kind of interesting because I think a lot of ice moves are usually special. So, honestly, Ho-Oh is a fine ice resist. Like, it can get the job done there. I think your hazard removal is good. I think your hazard setting is fine. There's not much in the problem of the type charts. Again, the main thing I would say is, like, no immediate offense. I think if I have never played Pokemon, but I understand everything about the game, right? Like, if all I've done is read books about Pokemon metagames, then I think this team looks good. Because everything, like, all these things, like Pivot, I guess, could be better. It could be a lot better, actually. Like, a lot better. You really only have, like, Baton Pass and Teleport. And then, like, Volt Switch, Mega Manectric. I don't know if Lapras gets Flip Turn, but it's not even a real mon anyway, so. But other than that, like looking at it, like who knows? Like, because it looks like you have all the things. You have the hazards, you have the hazard removal, you have the statusers, you have the phasers, you have taunts, you have knockoffs, and then your type chart is great. Like looking at all of that, it looks like a good team. But the fact that the Mons, I just feel like don't apply the pressure that you would like them to. Like your highest attack is Great Tusk and then Ho-Oh. And then Dialga, who's a special attacker. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like the automatic offense is just not there where it could be. But everything else is so well-rounded that I don't think it's that horrible. Or even horrible at all. I would throw this in the... I'm kind of halfway between B and C. I think I like bottom of B. I think bottom of B is good. Then we move on to my team. Total Cooper and the Chicago Bulbs. I'll try to be as non-biased as I can. I know it's, basically humanly impossible. But I do think that this team has its flaws, right? I've been talking about the type chart. I've been eyeing the type chart the whole time. And look at mine. I have 1 flying resist. My excuse would be that Delmise, if it comes, will usually tear out, like, will always tear out of that flying weakness. But, I mean, I don't know how often it's tearing into a resist. I have steel, but, like, do I have to, that still means I have to Terra Delmise every game. Like, I'm relying on Goldango to be my flying resist, like, a lot. Like, too much, right? I don't love my hazards. Clodsire effectively being my only stealth rocker. I wish Samurott showed up as spikes, honestly. It's kind of annoying because of the fact that it doesn't have the move spikes, but, like, whatever. But, like, I kind of wish my hazard spam was a little bit more real if I'm going to draft Goldango, and I just kind of backed out on the idea of going hazard spam. But I like Clodsire. I think it's a good mon in Ubers. I think Mewtwo and Rayquaza are an incredible core. I'm surprised Mewtwo fell to me in the second. That was just absolutely insane. But yeah, no Cleric. Cleric feels kind of niche at this point. I mean, Goldango can switch into these moves that are going to status, I guess, like if we're talking about that. And I mean, Smeargle could be my Cleric. Who knows? But I think I like my draft overall. I don't think it's damn near perfect or anything. It's definitely not the best draft we've seen so far. I like just the offense. I think the offense there is good. I think I have the defensive pieces to surround it. I'd like more pivot. I don't like that my only pivot is Rayquaza, who I feel like usually doesn't run it, which leaves me with basically like Incineroar as my only one because I don't have an electric for volt switching. It's Samurott and Incineroar are like the only two. So I would like my pivot to be a lot better, but I do think the offense is there. And it's not like neither of my mons can't come in safely. They both have, like, neither of my Ubers, I mean, can't come in safely. I think I would have liked to do a triple Uber draft, but I think having Enamorus and Goldango, like, those are 2 mons that are like, they're up there on the draft board. So I think I can get it done. But I don't think this team is as scary as it could be, starting with Rayquaza Mewtwo. I don't think I ended the draft as well. I think Goldango probably was the wrong pick, and I think my draft kind of went downhill from there. I don't think it's bad. I think I'm shitting on it more than I would like to. I definitely think it's B. I don't think it's anything better than B. I would throw it in the middle of B. I'll be nonpartisan and throw myself in the exact middle of the draft board and say I'm the very middle of the league. After that, we've got the second to last team, Only Cole and his team, the Coles. Incredible team name. If I remember correctly, Lunala was still available when Necrozma Dustmane came through. I'm kind of confused by why you chose, Necrozma Dawn. Necrozma Dustmane would have been a great pick in round 2, considering it's literally banned. But I do like the amount of starters you have on this team. That's kind of cool. Hazards are alright. Hazard removal is alright. Your defensive pieces are there. I'm not sure how many Spadef options you have. I guess Necrozma Dawnwings is it. I haven't seen much of Dawnwings. I don't know. The main thing I would say, again, the only flying resist, I had this problem as well on my team. Only flying resist is Corviknight. Only rock resist is Swampert. So those, could use some better options. I think the immediate offense is there on both sides, right? You got the Physical Blaziken, the Special Greninja, Necrozma Dawnwings could provide that as well. Ogerpon feels really weirdly out of place for this team. I feel like you're also not bringing Terra Captains very often, considering Volbeat and Delibird are literally 1-point Terra options, which leaves you with just Mimikyu. But he brought Volbeat like in half of his games last season that he drafted it too. So maybe he's just a Volbeat fiend. Maybe he's tearing that thing and bringing it every week. Who knows? But yeah, just a little bit of type chart weaknesses. I feel like for an Ubers league, this is not that incredible of a team. Like, there are not that many mons that feel like they stand out to me as being incredible. That's the main problem I would have. It's just like it doesn't pass the eye test, essentially. But not that many other things are bad. Other than like triple Ghost feels really weird. And like obviously you're losing to Ghost there. But I mean, Snorlax is a great ghost resist, so it can work. I can see it getting the job done. I don't think it's bad. I think it's B tier as well. I would put it. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Yeah, I would say. I think it's bottom of B. It's really close between him and Inquiz, but I'll throw it at the. I'll throw it above Inquiz's team. I think it's here. Still bottom of B though. And then last, let's see. Are we gonna use? I don't mean we don't even use the other two tiers. We've got Zombie Prophet and his Texas Toxapex team. Or her, or they. Sorry, I didn't mean to misgender you if I did. But we've got a credible offensive core here to start out. Jesus offense. Holy. Deoxys attack with Qianpao, Sneasler, and Gouging Fire. That is definitely a core. I feel like Clefable could just prove to be fake, to be honest, in this tier. But if it doesn't, then that feels like a decent pickup. Your only ground resist being the last two mons that could Terra out of it. I mean, like when are you bringing Terra Poison Arboliva? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's really rough. You then have Sneasler weak, Gouging Fire weak, Excadrill weak, Arboliva weak, Jolteon weak. Like, I don't know. Like, and I'm not saying you're bringing all of those mons, but it's just, Deoxys attack is weak to ground. Like, it is. It's weak to everything. It dies to everything. So it's like, that ground weakness is very, very bad. Even the flying weakness proves to be a problem there as well. But that is some very, very good offense. You have some good priority with Qianpao, some good setup. I think I'd like to see, the team be a little bit specially, you know, I feel like you can't bring physical Deoxys because of that, but I don't know, that's niche. That's a niche problem. Your only hazard removal is Excadrill Rapid Spin. That's rough. I would say that's probably your biggest problem here, is the hazard removal, and then the ghost problem as well. But other than that, it's not bad. The offense is there. This is definitely a very, very scary team to go up against, and one of the last teams I would like to choose to go up against. I think the pivot could be a little bit better as well. Pivot weak, your hazard removal's weak, and you're very ground weak. Those are the biggest problems. But it's still a good team. I'm debating between A or B. I'm thinking... This one's actually hard. I'm going to go with bottom of A. I kind of like bottom of A, which makes this very well-rounded tier list. It feels kind of lame that I'm not throwing anything in D or anything in S, but I think that's a good thing. I'm impressed with everyone's ability to create a well-rounded draft. There doesn't feel like one team that sticks out at the top or one team that had no clue what they were doing, throwing themselves down at D. I like how this draft went. I think, you know, a lot of these teams are very, very even. But yeah, that's my final tier list for the Bombastic Division. And now I will cut to me at a later time, because I'm not doing both of these back-to-back, for the Bounteous Division. All right, and we're back. Well, I guess for you guys, I'm not back because I never left. But for me, I left for a solid 8-9 hours probably, and I'm back now to do the second division, the Bounteous Division. So let's get into it. To start off, we start with Hash Brown's team, the New Hampshire Hash Browns. We're looking at this Mega Mewtwo Y, first overall. Registeel was not their second round pick. It was some other mon, and then they just reworked this team in free agency, or in Grace, I should say. And I don't know what the team looked like before, but I'm not too fond of this final product. It's all right. It gets the job done. But it's just like your physical mons are lacking a little bit. Because I think it's like Zoroark likes to be special more often, but it definitely can run physical, like no doubt. But then you've got like Cinderace and Rhyperior, Heracross and Registeel. Like Cinderace is nice, but nobody else really shows off like offensive prowess. Even Terra Rhyperior is like, you know, it's not standing up with the big guys. And on top of that, it's hard to set up on Mewtwo. I guess it probably isn't. It's just its Fizz Def could be better. Palkia doesn't have any setup. Like, I feel like you could AV spam and get through this team. Although, actually, to be fair, Mega Mewtwo Y having Psy Strike is actually pretty huge. So, I guess it could definitely be worse. Like, being able to attack on the defensive side is actually incredible. So, fair enough. As for your defense, I like the Mons singularly. I'm just not sure how well they work together. You have Arboliva and then Heracross pre-Terra as your ground resists. I mean, Rhyperior has Terra Flying, so I guess there's that. And I feel like that is going to be your Terramon of choice more often than not. But I don't know, I just don't see the immediate power past Mega Mewtwo Y. Like, I feel like this team kind of falls off a little bit after that. But I don't think it's bad. Spiritomb are fine, your utility's more than fine, it's actually pretty good. Like, I think it could definitely be worse. I think we're starting off strong here. I very much like this team. It has its flaws. It's not perfect, but I do like this kind of mid to bottom A. I don't think it's bad at all. I think this could be a better team. Like, actually, you know what? I don't know. The fact that Mewtwo has Psystrike, if it didn't have Psystrike or even Psyshock, like, even if it had to use Psyshock, I don't know. Like, I think I'd bring this team a lot lower, but that Psystrike is clutch. But, like, you're struggling against especially bulky darks. But, obviously, that's a niche. I'm not sure how often that's happening. So, I will say, and now I'm thinking bottom of A, top of B, but it feels rude to move you off of A after putting you there. So, I'll stick you there. And then next we have the Scary Smoliv and the Smoliv Garden. Now, the Scary Smoliv won Season 1 of BBL. Are they going to win Season 2? Spoiler alert, absolutely not. I mean, maybe they're goated. Maybe they are just absolutely goated. But, as you can see here, this is a monotype team. And monotype teams are nice. And if they can sneak out a couple of wins and maybe even make playoffs, that's impressive. But can they beat the best of the best with mono flying? Almost guaranteed not. Especially when you don't have a Terra Ice Resist. I would like to give some advice on how to fix this team, but you're also mono flying, so it's like you probably don't really give a fuck about advice and making your team perfect. But if you were looking for advice for some reason, the main thing I would say is make one of your Terra types should resist ice, in case you are really going up against a rough ice attacker. But yeah, obviously I won't go too in depth with this team. It just, you know, one dragon resist, no rock resist, no ice resist. It's like, yeah, it's a mono flying team. Like, I don't know what you expect. You know, I know Hades, when he made his tier list, he put you in outside of D because he thought it was cool. I think it's awesome, right? I love monotype teams, but if we're being real, it's a D tier team. I'm going to keep it real. I don't give out hype points, even though if I did, this team would get the most out of any team, probably, because that's hype that you're running monotype. And honestly, all things considered, you managed to get a really good monotype team. Like, obviously, being able to get the best flying in the league. I mean, it helped that you got the second pick, but you got the best flying. You know, Landorus and Shaman are good. You were able to get Thunderous and Lando, so you had those electric immunities, right? And you got your fair share of Mons not weak to ice and Mons not weak to rock. Like, all things considered, you drafted a very good monotype team. It's just also monotype, so it has to go D. But I'm sure if you're making a monotype team, you don't give a fuck about your power ranking, so it's not that bad of a deal. Like, they'll get over it. Next, we have Growth Chestplate and the Contrarian Clefables. They got the best mon in the draft. I know they were trying to trade away Eternatus. I think it's good that you have it. I mean, I get that you don't want to use it. You know, if you don't want to use it, you don't want to use it. But I think Eternatus was the best mon in the entire draft. I also think Zamazenta is a great mon to pair with it. And I like Q as well. I think I would like it a little bit more slow pivot, right? Because right now you're only dealing with like a Decidueye U-turn and a Blastoise flip turn. And even then, those aren't slower than stall mons, so... Or, like, you know, other slow utility mons otherwise, so it's like, alright. Gets the job done, I guess, but I feel like for Chi-Yu, you would like a little bit more. But the immediate offense is there, the speed is there. I mean, Chi-Yu only ghost resisted, like, you know, I could see that being a little bit rough, but it's not as bad as what other things could be. I think the team is built well. I don't think there's a huge hole in the lack of utility or anything. Like, I think the utility is built well. I think the type chart is built well. The speeds are built well. This feels like another team to me that, like, I'm not sure how often you're bringing a Terra captain. So it feels like you might be giving up Terra. But those are nitpicky things here and there. I think, like, the main thing is no slow pivot for Chi-Yu, but your offense is absolutely there, and it combines well with speed, and you have the best mon in the entire draft. So I think this is good as well. I am hesitant to put this in A, but I really don't see many things preventing it. I think it belongs in A. I think this is the best team so far, which is not hard, but yeah, I think it's good. I lied, by the way. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I will. I think this is B tier team. It doesn't belong in A. Looking at this team, I apologize for the debate, Hash Browns. I didn't mean to throw you in A just to move you down, but I don't know. I also have to be honest. Anyways, next we have Shoreline Pie and the Qingdao Quagsire. They drafted the Zacian, combined it with Deoxys, and built a solid team around it, to be honest. I like that it feels like almost every mon can have some type of immediate offense. Electros kind of feels like the one that's kind of out, but even Empoleon has like some niche. But I mean, other than those two, and obviously Bidoof, although don't disrespect Bidoof, has like immediate offense. Like, this team is very, very, very offensive, despite being a variety of speeds. You've got good hazard setters, good speed tiers all around. The utility is nice. I think I'd like a better ghost resist. I mean, it can be fine. I wouldn't be surprised if I see some ghosts running some HP bug to deal with Zarude, but like, if you're gonna, like, your only ghost resist being Zarude is fine when it's Zarude, right? Like, I feel like there definitely could be worse problems. Honestly, looking more at this team, I'm not sure what you're missing, to be honest. Like, you have the best rapid spinner in draft. I guess Pheromosa, maybe, if you, I don't know. Tusk is the best at spinning. It might not be the best Mon that has spin, but I would argue it's the best at spinning. And even then, you still have some niche defog options. You have plenty of knock. You have screens options. You have hazards, plenty of them. It just feels like there's not much you're missing at all. I like this team a lot. It also has the immediate offense. It has the speed. I guess if I had to complain, like the Terra, like Electros feels out of place. Like I don't love Electros as a Mon, but that honestly is just my personal opinion. And I guess the kind of logic is like, I don't know how often you're bringing a Terra Captain, but to be honest, the Terra rules that I set up feels like it almost forces that. Like, I don't know how often many people are bringing Terra Captains because of the fact that it's 10 and cheaper, and in an Uber's draft, you're going to have 6 to 7 Mons more expensive than that. So I can't even really blame you for that. I don't hate this team. I don't think it's perfect, but if S was saved for absolute perfect, we would go through 8 seasons and probably never have an S tier. So I think this is as close as S tier as we could get. I think this is an S tier team. I don't really see anything that I would personally change if I was given this team with unlimited transactions. Like I'm pretty sure I would just run this team. So yeah, I would say so. Good job, Shoreline. You built a great team. Moving on, next we have Red Sox Alex with the Fighting Lando Tees. Now they went in with the special offense here, and you can see that. It's funny, the Mon with the most physical attack on this team is Kyurem White. It is tied with Ogerpon, but Kyurem White, which is really funny. Now you'll notice a glaring weakness here if you look at the type chart. I don't see a single dark or a single normal, which means I don't see a single ghost resist, which I guess would always be true if you have no dark or no null. Actually, that's not true. Garganackle. Forgot about Garganackle and Knackle Stack, but you get the point. I see no ghost resist at all. I see one flying resist, and it's Kilowattrel, which has like no bulk. And I see one ice resist. Now the ice resist is good, and it's a Mon you're usually going to be bringing a lot, so I guess that's not that bad. But then the other thing is no ground. Now you can kind of circumvent this with Volt Absorb Kilowattrel, but I'm sure there were some weeks where you'd like to run competitive, and are you going to run Kilowattrel every single time? I don't know. It's not that bad of an issue, I guess, but like ground is like one of the most important types to have, and you don't have it, and you don't have a dark. I'm not sure about this team. The utility is there. I'd like to see more than one rocker, but I mean, Ferrothorn is a great Mon to bring in Ubers, and I think you can fit Ferrothorn with rocks on just about every single team, except unless you're going up against a Sun team. I think given the amount of hazard removal options you have, which is not that many, correct me if I'm wrong, you just have Finny Defog, Lunala Defog, which usually doesn't want to run Defog, and then Hitmontop Spin. I don't know. And like, you don't really want to get rid of your own Ferrothorn's hazards, but then you've also got Kyurem White and Gouging Fire and Kilowattrel, 3 Mons weak to rocks. And it's like, do you want to run boots on those all the time? I mean, probably a decent amount, but like Kyurem White would love not having to run boots if it doesn't have to. So yeah, I mean, some of these Mons aren't bad. I feel like it could easily get kind of picked up because I like these first 5. I think they're pretty good. I just don't think the last 5 kind of surrounding them did as much as they could to make the rest of the team work. I'd love to see a bulky dark here. So with that kind of stuff in mind, I think C tier is what I'm looking at. We'll have one of each tier going forward. Perfectly balanced. Moving on, we have Deadpool and the Pennsylvania Galvantulas. Now this team's a little bit interesting because he went with these starting Mons. I don't even think he had Walking Wake during the draft. I'm pretty sure he got rid of it. Some other Mon. He got rid of some other Mon for Walking Wake. So he had like Mewtwo, Genesect, and some other, maybe, I think he had some other Uber as well. And then Mega Venusaur, and then just said, fuck it, Rain. Archaludon, Pelipper, Floatzel. But it's like, what is this team doing in Rain? Like, Walking Wake is not a Rain Mon. It's just not. Like, I know it's a Water Mon, but so it's like, in a way, every Water Mon is a Rain Mon because it gets boosted stab. But like, that's it. You're just going to be using Surf Walking Wake. So I don't know. And then like, what else does this team do? Like, okay, I guess Mega Venusaur becomes a fire resist. Genesect, obviously, has a little bit more survivability in the range, so it's like, I guess that's good. But I don't know, the team just feels kind of out of place. You have one ground resist, you have one flying resist, you have one ghost resist, you have one dark resist, and your one ghost resist is Dubwool, which is not a reasonable resist. Yeah, and I'm keeping in mind, and like, your darks, the only way you can get an extra dark resist is by tearing Dubwool to fighting, and then you'll have literally no ghost resists. You don't have a single way to stop a ghost Terra. You also don't have a single way to stop ghosts with Terra. So yeah, a lot of weird synergy around this team. It feels like a pseudo rain team, but just with not enough support on the rest of the team to keep it going. Bad hazard removal. Yeah, no spinner, one defogger. So yeah, I think this is a D tier. I obviously don't think it's as bad as Monotype. Obviously, Monotype's going to be the worst, spoiler alert, but still has a lot of holes. All right, next up, we got Hellfire and the Dream Reaper Darkrise. I like this team offensively, right? Obviously, Iron Bundle Coco, great core. We've seen it work plenty of times before. It kind of does suck that both your Ubers are physical, but like Kieran Black has special prowess. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't Ice Beam. Like, it's done it before, so it can be special if you want it to be. It could be worse, is what I'm saying. But obviously, the biggest weakness I'm seeing, well, I guess there's two. I think one of the big ones is that fire, right? Flash Fire Flareon, or I guess, it doesn't need to be Flash Fire, but you can't Terra out of fire if it's not going to be Flash Fire, is your only fire resistance. I guess you also have Terra Water Whimsicott, but that's it. Everything else, because your other two types, Water and Dragon, that usually resist fire, both have Ice type on them, so it's really rough. I think not only that, but I think Will-O-Wisp is honestly pretty good into this team as well, because you're pretty physical heavy. I just see fire types being a big problem for you to deal with. I mean, Iron Bundle can handle them offensively at the very least, but you got to find a place to be able to switch it in, which you do have a small amount of pivot. Not small, I mean like normal amount of pivot, I mean, to be able to try to bring it in. So you can manage it if you're really good, but it is still a problem. And then the other problem that I see is you only have one Stealth Rocker. One Stealth Rocker, Muck, you have no spikes. Muck is your only toxic spikes. Like, the hazard game is just weak, which I guess is fine when your hazard removal is really good. You have Defog Coco, Defog Mandibuzz, Spin Treads, like even Defog Whimsicott, which is Prankster, so if you're in a dire situation to remove them, you can remove them before you sack your Mon. Like, that situation is really good. So I guess if you really want to play a no hazards game, you can, which honestly, when you have Kieran Black and Iron Bundle, you could be in a worse situation. Like, I'm not going to lie. Honestly, like, the more I'm looking at it, one rocker on this team, I think I'd ideally still like a second rocker, but just because if you really want to have rocks up on their side, you absolutely have to bring rocks on treads. And that's like a little annoying, but it's not as big of a problem as other people's one rocks. Your team is kind of built around it a little bit. And that's honestly it. I mean, I like these Mons. I'm not sure the need to go triple fairy. Like, I really don't see how it's necessary. Like, honestly, I think I'd just drop Whimsicott, Mega Audino, and deal with having no grass type and get some bulky water. Or just a good Terra Captain or something. I don't know. But, like, I don't really see Whimsicott's place on this team, I personally. But yeah, utility's great. Your hazards are weak, but it's kind of okay when you have Kieran Black and Iron Bundle. I don't hate this team. I don't hate this team at all. I think honestly the biggest issue is like no special Uber. That can be like kind of annoying, but it's like it's not a huge issue. Like I said, like it's all right. I do think this team does have its flaws though. I kind of like it top of B. I think top of B is good. Next we have Satori Gaming and their team. I don't even know how to pronounce this. Toho Eurobeat Volume dot Pukumuku. Quite the name. Very long name. But the team honestly looks very solid. We have quadruple Ubers. We have 4 Ubers on this one. Now, it's easy to get 4 Ubers when one of them are Qianpao and one of them's Lugia. Like, in the Ubers game, those are, like, kind of weak, low-level Mons. But obviously, you're not going to have 4 high-level Ubers. And I think that those are 4 good Ubers to have. Like, Lugia, I did shit on when Destroyer had it in the last division. But that was because, like, that was one of his 2 Ubers. I'm pretty sure. He only had 2. When you have one of 4... it's not a bad Mon to pick up. The 2 biggest weaknesses I'm noticing both have to do with rock. You are not only weak to rock type, right? When you have 2 resists, one of them's a Terra. So if they Terra out, then you have 1 resist, and that's Klefki. But also, Stealth Rocks is the other one. You don't have many rocks users. Glimmet is just like a 1-point rock slate, which is like not real. We're not, you know what I mean? It's Glimmet, which leaves you with Zekrom, who hates using rocks, and Rhydon. So it's like really your only rocker is Rhydon, and that's a little bit rough. You've got a couple of other weaknesses that are a little bad, like Qianpao is a ghost as your only ghost resist, and then Klefki is your only dragon resist because you combined your steel and fairy. You don't have any offensive fighting types, which I usually do like, but that's kind of just nitpicking. But the main thing I'd say is, like, I think a lot of where Primal Kyogre's offensive prowess goes into its bulk making it hard to one-shot, and you can one-shot everything. So I think being able to bring in Kyogre neutrally is really, really strong, right? Being able to have like a regenerator pivot or a bulky pivot that can come in, you threaten an Oko on something with Origin Pulse, and they have to, even if they're faster, they're only doing like 40. So they have to accept the fact that 40% is going to be enough, and they have to sack a whole mon. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of how Primal Kyogre works. But you don't have any bulky pivot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it literally just Rotom? Oh, actually, okay, you have Rotom, Heat's Volt Switch, and then Shaman's Baton Pass. And I think that's it. You can correct me if I'm wrong. There might be something else I'm missing. I mean, maybe Zekrom gets Volt Switch? I guess I can check here because you have no U-turners. Okay, yes, but Zekrom does have Volt Switch if you want to go with that. But that's it. You have no U-turners on the entire team, which is honestly impressive. And then you have the Baton Pass Shaman. And Shaman actually is one of the few mons that has Baton Pass that actually likes to use it. There are not a lot. There are some mons that get it, but like realistically, you're never going to use it. This is a mon that actually likes it. But even then, even if you're uninvested, that's still base 100 speed. Meaning your slowest pivot is like Rotom Heat. It just makes it a little bit rough is all. I think you can get it done. I don't think this team is bad by any means, but I would just like a bulky pivot to be able to bring in Qianpao and Primal Kyogre. But your bulky mons don't really have that much pivot. Like Rhydon doesn't have pivot, Lugia doesn't have pivot, Klefki doesn't have pivot. Although screens do help them. Like screens, you can Calm Mind with Primal Kyogre, you can Dragon Dance with Zekrom, you can even SD with Qianpao, right? Even like Nasty Plot with Rotom Heat. You can do some weakness policy rock polish strats with Rhydon. Like, just about every mon here has setup potential for your screens, so I do like that. But yeah, my specific problem with the team would be not a lot of stealth rockers, weak on the board defensively on rock, ghost, and dragon, no offensive fighting, no ghost, actually. No ghost is a little interesting. I think almost all of your mons can tear a ghost, but the only one that can't is the one you're probably bringing the most often, and that's Shaman. But at the same time, I'm also not going to underestimate how strong it can be to have 4 Ubers and not have your team fall apart at the end, because I don't think that happened here, right? Being able to pick up 4 Ubers and still have a strong team down the stretch, like that doesn't absolutely throw. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's incredibly amazing, but it doesn't throw itself into the dirt. It's impressive, and I think that's not bad. I don't think it's C. I think it's bottom of B. It's like bottom of B, top of C. It's not bad at all. I'm leaning way more towards bottom of B now that I think about it. I wouldn't say this is a C tier team. Next up, we have .exe and his 50s Shift Trees. This team is scary. Now, Geomancy is banned on Xerneas, which makes this team a lot less scary than it could be. But, I mean, you know, Xerneas and Mega Metagross, like, that's an incredible combo. And then combining that with Ting-Lu is really good. You know, like, you have these offensive 2, and then these next 3 combine really well. Obviously, like, Mega Metagross covers Xerneas' weaknesses. But then you also look at, like, okay, Metagross is weak to Ghost and Dark. Ting-Lu covers that. The Steel part of it is weak to Ground. Zapdos covers that. It's also weak to Fire. Aloe covers that. And then it's not, you know, Steel is weak to fighting, but Metagross isn't. But Ting-Lu is weak to fighting. Zapdos covers that. Alomola is weak to Electric. Ting-Lu covers that. It's weak to Grass. Metagross and Zapdos cover that. You know, Zapdos is weak to Rocks. Metagross and Ting-Lu cover, or not Rocks, but Rock. Ting-Lu and Metagross cover that. It's weak to Ice. Aloe covers that. Like, these weaknesses are incredibly strong with just these 4. Like, I think it worked out really, really well. And then you were still able to pick up some strong offensive attackers in King Gambit and Iron Moth. I'm not a huge fan of King Gambit, but I think that's usually just because I don't think it's worth its price. And I still do believe that even in Ubers, but like, I mean, when you can still have this core, you know, and still have Iron Moth and still have defensive switch-ins, while having King Gambit, like, I think it's fine. And then top it off with the best Terra Captain in the game. This team was formed out really well. I think the biggest problem that I could say is if you are going to Terra Steel Sinisha, you have 1 ground resistance, and that's a little bit rough. I do think that's a big issue that's real, but also at the same time, it's like Aloe most ground attackers are physical. Aloe can still take an Earthquake and switch out with Regenerator. Like, you're threatening it with a super effective flip turn, too. Like, I guess if I had to be nitpicky, like I said from the last few teams, I like offensive fightings, and I like dragons, too. But I don't really feel like you need dragon for the defensive purposes. The offensive ones might be now. Like, if, like, I don't know. But, like, Hydreigon makes you too special. Like, if Hydreigon was physical, I'd say drop King Gambit and get Hydreigon. I don't know if you can afford it, but you could easily drop Morgrim and lower the point cost of Morgrim. You know what I mean? Like, drop Morgrim, find a 2-pointer instead, and then upgrade King Gambit to Hydreigon. But Hydreigon's not physical. And I think that, you know, if you had Hydreigon here, what's your best physical attacker is Mega Metagross, which is good. But other than that, it's like, what, Ting Lu? Maybe physical Hydreigon, like actual physical Hydreigon, like IRL, like you use D-Dance sets on a special Hydreigon would be your best physical threat. Like, you kind of need that. I know when Hades made his tier list, he put this team in S tier. As much as I would love to do that, I unfortunately believe that there is one glaring weakness I haven't touched on yet, and that is speed. You do have some good priority, right? You have the Sucker Punch King Gambit and the Bullet Punch Mega Metagross that are both really, really strong. But, you know, Sucker Punch can be subbed on. It can, you know, it has its counterplay. Bullet Punch is resisted by a lot. You know, it's not really strong offensive type. And it's also not OHKOing everything, meaning you're still going to have a speed problem. I like that you have some decent Scarfers, right? You have like Scarf Moth or potentially Booster Moth. You have Scarf Xerneas, right? But yes, overall speed is a problem without choice locking yourself. And I think that is the one problem that I have. I really wish there was some physical dark that's as good as King Gambit that actually has a lot of speed. Maybe a Weavile. I actually, you know what? I kind of do believe that. I don't know if Weavile's available. I guess you don't really need a dark. You don't really need a dark. But I guess if I had to nitpick some things, yeah, that would be my other thing. It's like your speed tier. I would drop King Gambit and try to find some type of offensive mon that has speed to keep up with the best of the best. I mean, Weavile, you could probably drop King Gambit and pick up Weavile and have the same profits. But I understand that, like, I'm guessing King Gambit does a lot defensively for your resists. I mean, I can remove it off the team and you can see, I mean, I guess it's just rock. I don't know. Like, and I guess Weavile is weak to rock, so I don't know. But yeah, like finding some mon that's like above 120 base speed instead of that slot, I think actually has a lot of use. Maybe like a Weavile, maybe like a Sneasler. You know, like if you dropped King Gambit, picked up Sneasler, and replaced Morgrim for a 1-pointer, maybe. I'm not sure, but I think that that's what's going to keep me from putting this into S tier. But honestly, even with the speed problems, it's still A. I'll go ahead and throw it above this team. I think it's the second best team so far. And then next up, we have Skate Z and the, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Jeden Crocodile or Jeden Crocodile. What, I don't know. One of those two. And this team, they have the Mega Mewtwo X, Dialga, Dragapult, being able to pick up Dragapult. That Incineroar pick does feel really early. I think they felt the need to pick up a Terra Captain really early, but it doesn't really seem like it compromises the rest of the team all that much, like at all, really. Like it seems like they were still able to pick up just about everything they needed to pick up. But as you can see, the utility is amazing. I think your offensive special, like on the special side, could be a little bit lacking, but I don't know. Like Dialga, like, and Dragapult have offensive prowess. It's just, I don't know. They don't feel like super threatening. Like, I think when Dialga comes in, I'm like not afraid that I'm going to die to it. But I guess it does have 150 special attack and can drop a 130 stab attack on me. So I'm probably just underrating it. The biggest problem I see, there are two problems with me. And I see one, ground resist with Gliscor. So if any ground can bring some type of ice coverage, you're in a big trouble there. And then your only ghost resist being a Terramon. That you have Terra Ghost on as well. If you Terra Ghost on Incineroar, this team is cooked. Like, I'm sorry, but it's hella cooked. You don't have a single ghost resist Terra except for Incineroar just stab tearing Dark. You do have Terra Flying Incineroar for your ground, as well as Terra Bug, Shuckle, Pog. But yeah, your only other real ground resist would be Terra Flying Incineroar, but does that mean you're going to Terra Flying every time? It just feels like kind of a waste of a Terra. I also think your hazard removal for a team that kind of feels like really balanced, like something that wants to go 30, 40 turns a game, your hazards are great, but your hazard removal is not that great, right? Your spinner's not good in Sandslash Alola. No disrespect, but like, let's be real. and then just defog Gliscor. And so it's like, especially when you have a Mon like Ogerpon that has to take 25 to rocks, you can't run boots on it. I feel like this team kind of wants longevity without being able to handle longevity because of the defog issues. But the pivot's great. You know, I think your offensive threat is there. I think it's just defensively you're kind of lacking a couple of things, which is tough because I think your team is kind of built to need defense, which is why you have Pex and Gliscor. Like, these Mons are good. I still think this team can work. But yes, the biggest issues I think are lack of removal, lack of a good ground, like enough ground beats, as what is the term I'll use, resistances and immunities, and then ghost resistances and immunities. And honestly, you could throw Dragon in there as well, because like I said, Sandslash probably not coming that often, so it's just Tink. So you could even throw that in there. But I mean, this team is still not bad, and Mega Mewtwo X is a mon that I absolutely want to see cook. So I expect some good. I expect you to do good with Mega Mewtwo, because I want to see this mon do good. I want to see what it's worth, you know, what it's capable of, because I haven't seen much of it, because, you know, on ladder, you never run it, because if you're going to run a Mega Mewtwo, you're going to run Y, or just normal Mewtwo at all. So I really haven't seen it. I haven't really seen that many Ubers drafts. So with all that in mind, I haven't seen much gameplay of Mewtwo X. So I'm excited. I really am. But exciting, unfortunately, does not boost your ratings. I'm still going to throw you in B. Not a bad team, though. Not a bad team by any means. And next we have Rathmon and his Looney Ludicolo's. He made it to the semis of BBL Season 1, back into Season 2 with a vengeance. And you can tell he's got a vengeance with this team. It's pretty damn good, right? I think these legendaries are amazing. They've got Ho-Oh, you know, Ho-Oh and Palkia Origin, and then Mega Lucario. A lot of the utility is covered by Mew, which usually I would have a problem with, but I think in Ubers, drafting Mew for, like, as a utility captain is not bad, because it's not supposed to be your first or second round pick, or even your third, right? He got Mew in the 4th, because he has offensive prowess in Palkia Origin, Palkia Origin, Mega Lucario, and then even potentially Ho-Oh. Like, I've seen banded Ho-Oh cook before, but, you know, defensive capabilities in Ho-Oh as well, and then your utility king in Mew. And then, you know, Kleavor being able to get up rocks. Grimmsnarl could set up screens for the setup of Lucario, who could nasty plot or SD, of course. I don't think Palkia Origin has setup, which kind of sucks. I kind of want to see that mon benefit from screens a little bit more. Mew can always benefit from screens, I guess. I like these Terra Captains. I had Flygon last season and won with it. I think it's good. People are going to tell you it sucks. People always try to tell you that Terra Flygon sucks. It does not suck. It is really good. I think personally I would have chosen Terra Steel. I like Terra Electric for no weaknesses, don't get me wrong, but I found a lot of use from Terra Steel. But you do you. I mean, Electric, a lot of people choose Electric, right? I'm not going to sit here and act like it's bad. And then obviously Jolteon having a Bolt Beamer, you know, is also really strong. Although Ghost, I'm not really sure. I mean, I get the Terra Ghost Shadow Balls, but I think I would have preferred Grass or Fairy in that other slot. But these are nitpicky things. I think these are very good. Obviously, offensively, you kind of have an issue with Ice. Or defensively, I mean. You kind of have an issue with Ice, right? Lucario being your only Ice resist, because your Water is also Dragon. And then, assuming Vileplume isn't coming all that often, you only have Ho-Oh as your only Fairy resist. But, I mean, that's a damn good Fairy resist. And also, Ice, most of the time being special, I mean. You know, Ho-Oh can be an option for that as well, from time to time. But yeah, I would say that I think Grimmsnarl probably has the least of a place on this team. Maybe Kleavor as well. I love Kleavor, right, and its ability to set up rocks, but I think if I were to try to fix this team, which, I mean, fix makes it sound like it's bad. It's not bad. It's nowhere near bad. But I would probably get rid of Kleavor, Grimmsnarl, Vileplume, Gumshoos, and try to build some type of team, because, like, Kleavor, I love Kleavor, and it's a great mon, but, like, it really, the only thing it's there for, like, is really just Stealth Rocks and Pivot. Like, that's kind of the only thing that Kleavor does. I guess it can dual dance behind screens. So yeah, I would probably, like, take out Grimmsnarl and Kleavor and try to find, like, a Dark Water or a Water Fairy. Like, I don't know if Primarina's available or something, but maybe build from there. But this team is not bad at all. And honestly, I usually see, like, okay, you know, the one Dragon resist or the one Flying resist. I actually didn't see that until now. That actually is rough. And then you only really have one Ghost resist. I still almost want to put this in S tier, but I think that might just be biased because Raph is my friend. I think this is the second best team so far. I think that your only real weaknesses being these like, okay, only one resistance to ice, one resistance to flying, one real resistance to fairy, one real resistance to ghost. Like, these are problems. I guess the other problem I would say is, like, if you're gonna have Cleavor, right, like the rock setter, like Cleavor is the rock setter, I feel like you should have a ghost type to spin block. If you're gonna have rocks up every game, realistically, I don't know. But I mean, like, again, that's like a little nitpicky. I mean, I guess you have Terra Ghost Jolteon. I guess maybe that's what that was there for. I don't know. But I said which mons I would drop to try to fix, like, quote unquote, fix this team. But honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you don't change anything. Because especially because I'm saying, like, it, you know, I'm saying it like it's super easy to just drop these mons and find the perfect replacement. I have no idea if the perfect replacement is out there, you know, especially with the draft being done and so many mons being unavailable. So, you know, just take that with a grain of salt. But I do think it's the second best team. I think it's top of A. Next, we got XViz. XViz here drafted double Uber. If you want to count Zamazenta Crown as an Uber, it's illegal in some leagues, including mine. So, you know, it's an Uber in that way. But unfortunately, I don't like this team all that much, and I think the reasons for why are pretty obvious. You have Gligar as your only hazard setter, and yes, it has all three, but it's still your only hazard setter. I guess it's a solid Terra Captain, though. You have absolutely no fairy resists. You know, you're only... Actually, you have Terra Steel Gligar. You have Zeraora as your only flying resist. And also just Mega Latias being your best mon. Like, you have... Your most expensive mon is 22 points. In a league where it goes up to 30. I can't imagine that that's going to create a strong offensive team. I mean, you still have, like, you know, Iron Valiant, Tornadus T, Zeraora, you know, your defensive guys, like Gligar Muck, like, they're good. And I like how many mixed attackers you have. Like, I feel like that makes your team slightly unpredictable. But there's a lot of problems, right? The fairy spam being there, even the flying spam being there. You don't have great hazards, like, at all. Even, like, Muckalola being your only ghost resist, although that's a great ghost resist to have. Like, I'm not going to underestimate that mon. But it does get chipped down, you know, unless you're going to use your best mon as a wish supporter for it, because Latias is your only wish user. Just not enough that I like about this team. I think it's going to crumble under the spotlight. I don't know what the best Uber is available, but you probably need to drop whatever you can to afford it and pick it up, because this team needs it, like, badly. No offense, XViz, but I'm going to put this in D tier. Next, we have Hades of Ender and the Canalave Nightmares. And this team's pretty good. I definitely don't mind it at all. I think Calyrex Ice, I'm not, like, the biggest fan of it personally. I don't think it's a bad mon by any means, nor do I think it's worse than anybody else. I just personally have never wanted to use it, but I'm trying to, like, get that out of my head because I know it's a good mon. And I don't want, like, my personal bias to, like, convince me that I shouldn't draft it, you know, that I shouldn't appreciate it. But I think Mega Mence and Calyrex Ice are two incredible mons to start out with. I think those are great mons. The issue that I have is like, obviously both of them being Rock Weak and one of them can't use boots. You're going to need great hazard removal, and I don't think this team has that. You've got Defog Roadhelm as a niche, and then other than that, it's just Corviknight. I don't think this team has a spinner, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty positive I'm not mistaken. I don't think this team has, like, I kind of wish you had another Trick Room abuser, because you drafted Calyrex Ice and then you drafted Porygon 2, but, like, is it just Primarina? Which I guess I shouldn't underestimate Primarina, but, like, it's not necessarily like that mon is a Trick Room abuser, I would say. But at least with the Trick Roomers you have, it nullifies the weakness of the fact that your highest speed mon is Darkrai. 125 is, like, all right, but in Ubers, I feel like that kind of falls short. But at least Salamence can easily Dragon Dance and become faster, so I guess there's that. And then, of course, the double Trick Roomers. Then if you want to talk about defensively, Nidoqueen is your only rocker. You have no spikes either. It's your only rock resist as well, because I'm not counting Gabite for either of those things. And like I said, like, removal is rough. At least you have one mon that loves to remove and effectively do almost nothing else in Corviknight, so, you know, you could be worse off. I don't like that you have, like, effectively no item removers. I think you have, like, Trick, Porygon 2, and Rotom, but, like, are you tricking with Porygon 2? Absolutely not. And you could trick with Rotom. I guess you could trick with Darkrai as well. But, like, you only really have triggers. You're not bringing knockoff Darkrai. I don't believe you. Prove me wrong, man. But it's hard for me to rate Mega Mence and Calyrex Ice low, because they're two really, really good mons that hit hard, but also just, like, No special Uber is kind of annoying. I don't think it's incredible, but I don't think it's like dog shit. Um, I want to fill out the C tier, but I also can't lie. I think it's bottom of B. I think that's a good place for it. Then next we've got Dan and the Iwata Incinerators. I don't get that. I don't get the joke. I apologize. Iwata Incinerators. I'm probably saying the joke out loud and I'm not realizing it, so apologies. But this person built a Sun team, and a damn good one at that. The other Sun team also had Fluttermane and Roaring Moon. I can't remember what else, but this Mega Blaziken is also a very strong threat in Sun. Venusaur, great Terra Captain in the Sun as well. I feel like you did grab it a little bit too early, and I can kind of see that the rest of your mons felt to have fallen because of that. If I remember correctly, you drafted Sukotica because you wanted it to be a Terra Captain, not realizing it was banned. So, fair, but I think at that point I would have just dropped it to try to find a steal that's a little bit better, but again, I don't know what steal options were out there. Maybe there were no good ones left. But damn, I think there definitely are some problems here, like the Ghost Resist being just Roaring Moon, but defensively there's not much worse than that. I think Groudon is a fine rocker. Again, the other thing that I like about these Uber Sun teams is that, like, none of these mons, like, totally need Sun. I guess Venusaur does to an extent, to be fair. But you still have plenty of mons like Roaring Moon, Fluttermane, and Mega Blaziken where it's like, you know, yeah, they like Sun. Yes, they're better in Sun, but, like, they don't thrive on Sun. They don't absolutely... they do thrive on Sun, but, like, they don't... That's not a necessity, right? You can still work without them. So you don't necessarily need to run Heat, Rock, Groudon. You can run a Rocky Helmet. You can run Leftovers or some offensive item maybe because it does still Double Dance and it's still effective. It doesn't need to be Primal. I think this team has the utility it needs. I think it has the offense. I honestly do feel like Delphox a little bit, to an extent, doesn't need to be here. It feels a little bit out of place. I think the only thing that's setting me away from going up to S tier is just the fact that Groudon feels like it's going to be a support mon from here because your rock options are weak, which leaves like, it's like half, so it feels like it's like half of Groudon and then Mega Blaziken are your only Ubers. I feel like if you could find a way to fit an Uber on this team, another Uber on this team, I think it could be S tier. Not that I would rearrange your team in any way, you know, to try to make that happen, but theoretically from the start, if you could have figured that out, I think it could have worked out, but I still do believe this is A. I don't know if it's better than Raph. I don't think I can say that much. I think it's here. Again, I said this with the last tier list. I should have said it earlier, but don't concentrate on the order too much. I kind of just half thought out the order within the tiers. Just pay attention to the tiers themselves way more. Next, we've got Connor and the Maidenless team. Now, this player won Season 1 of BBL. And they're coming back, honestly, looking kind of strong here. Rayquaza, Solgaleo, Spectrier, these are good mons. I kind of wish I saw Special Uber, but Spectrier is like a great special mon to be there as like a coverage guy to kind of beat the guys that I feel like a lot of these other mons might not be able to beat, right? And Blaziken is a great mon to cover the mons that Spectrier can't beat. But yeah, your hazard setters are great. Your utility overall is great. You've got some great threats. To move to the things I don't like, I think Solgaleo is like your only physical wall, which kind of, it feels like you're going to be forced to run it as a physical wall, or like Gastrodon max defense, but like that's passable at best, especially in Ubers. So it's like Solgaleo is your physical wall, which is kind of like, it's fine. Like it gets the job done, don't get me wrong, it's not bad. But like, are you going to have Rayquaza as your only Uber then? Because Solgaleo is going to sit and tank attacks the whole time. So like Rayquaza is your only sweeper, or even your only offensive threat from Ubers. It just feels a little rough. Solgaleo is your only real flying resist as well, which makes it a lot more inclined to be a mon that can tank some attacks if it has to tank those attacks. As well as your only fairy resist, because again, I'm not counting Colossal for either of those. One, because it's not that great of a mon, and two, because it could just Terra out of both. I am impressed with this team, because the more and more that I look at it, they're really the only problems that I could find. This team just relies on Solgaleo to be defensive too much. Like, that is the entire problem with it. If you could somehow rework this team to find another defensive wall that is a fairy and flying resist, aka like another bulky steel that's Fizz Def, I think this team would turn out to be a lot different. Like, my opinion on it would be a lot different. But like, again, I don't know if that's possible. And it's not like this team is bad by any means necessary. But like, I'm not saying you like have to do that, because like this team is not I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not bad by any means. But I do think even though there's, like, that's the only real flaw, there are, like, 3 different flaws that lead to that major flaw, so it's a pretty bad flaw to have. Also, honestly, no grounded poison for this team specifically also does feel a little bit annoying. So I guess there's that. But mainly it's the Solgaleo not having a defensive wall, and so for that reason, I'm putting it top of B. It's crazy that it does really feel like it only has 1 issue, maybe 2, but that issue is just so big that I can't put it any higher. And then last, but also least, just kidding, Awan, I love you. We have Awan and his team, Communist Doge. And I like these mons, Magearna, Pheromosa, and Naganadel. I like the defensive support that surrounds them. I love these mons. If I was giving out a hype score, this would be near the top. I like a lot of these mons, and I do think it's built decently well. I know that Awan didn't build his team. Shout out Fox. She was the one who actually built this team, but I think it's good. I think one of the big problems is it doesn't have a major Uber, but like, I don't know how much I can fault you for that because you had this is the last pick. We're going in order of picks. So it's like, maybe Magearna really was one of the best mons available. I know that Mega Mence was available. I do know there were some more expensive mons available, but like Magearna in draft is a great mon to use. Like I said before, it's like a Mew. I guess like I said this in the last div. It's like the Mew of Ubers, like in a way. Like you can kind of do anything you want with it, it feels like. Definitely not to the extent of Mew. Don't get me wrong, but it can do a lot. I think the biggest problem I have is that Miltank is your only rocker, but like you can get by that when you have spikers. I just kind of don't like that the spikers are also all offensive. Like you don't really have like a total defensive spiker, although I guess Magearna can absolutely do that. But yeah, I like the unpredictability of this team as well. Like Magearna can kind of do whatever it wants. Victini and Pheromosa are both mixed attackers. Like I think this team is good. Magearna as an only rock resist could prove to be a problem, and also just not really having a ground. Like, you're not bringing Diglett every game, so Volt switches are pretty free. So for that reason, I don't think this team is, like, perfect, but I do love the mons that are in it. But yeah, this team does just feel average to me. Yeah, I don't hate it at all. Average is the perfect word to describe it. Throw it right in the middle of B. Like I said, don't focus on the orders too much. And I think that's it. Kind of sucks we only had 1 C, but this is a lot more, I don't know the word I'm looking for. It has a lot more variance to it, because in the other div, there were literally no S's and no D's. In this one, we have both of them. We have 3 D tiers. We even have an S. And I guess by that logic, that makes Shoreline Pie's draft the best in both leagues. Like overall, the best draft is what I'm giving it. And I don't hate that. It is a very good draft. But the drafting phase only goes a long way, right? There's still the battling phase. You know, how good of a player are you? That's what matters more. Smoliv could win the whole damn thing with a fucking mono flying team. All right? So everyone's got to battle hard, got to play to win. Whatever inspirational fucking speech I could give right now, I'm trying to give it, helping you guys out. And I'm rooting for these teams at the bottom, honestly. But I'm also rooting for Raph. I know he's at the top, but I'm also rooting for him. No bias. Actually, hella bias. But yeah, if I rank your team low, go ahead and prove me wrong. You know, battle like a fucking pro, and I'll be impressed. So hell yeah. Well, thanks for watching. Again, this is just my opinion. And my opinion, honestly, is not even that valid. Maybe I should have mentioned that at the beginning. But oh well, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you appreciate it, because I'll appreciate it. I think that's all I gotta say. Thanks for watching. Peace out, gang.